Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about how I do my recruiting in my operations for FedEx Ground drivers. And contrary to popular belief, this is not a cushy job, right? You don't get to sit down inside a Mercedes Benz with leather seats and full air conditioning and heaters and hit the ground running and enjoy it with 2-pound boxes, right? That's just not what this job is. So what a lot of contractors fall victims of is they essentially interview people over the phone, and they basically hire them over the phone. And the candidates, not that it's their fault, they never really understand what the job entails. What is the job, right? So from the outside world, you're thinking it's a very, very cushy job. You're gonna show up to work, and you're gonna get in a truck that's got ACs and heaters, and it's luxury, and you're gonna basically deliver 5-pound packages or 2-pound packages, right? And that's just not the career that we are offering these candidates. So the way I do my interviews for all of my operations is candidates are essentially scheduled for interview, and we do this 6 days a week. Essentially, every day at 10 a.m., my management team knows that a bunch of people will show up for an interview. Sometimes there's 5 of them, sometimes there's 2 of them, sometimes there's 20. It just depends on the day and how aggressively we're in the hiring stage at that stage. They show up, and then we basically talk to them, right? And it's not much of an interview, because one thing I've realized is there's not a lot of questions you can ask candidates for this job that are going to determine if they're going to be great drivers that are gonna stick with you long term. The thing that I have found that's actually very sustainable is to present them the idea of company culture and make sure that we're going to align our culture and their personality and their culture and their DNA is actually going to align with our company culture. That's the first thing that, in my opinion, has been the most effective way of making sure these potential candidates, potential drivers, are going to stick with us long term. Because the ones that aren't going to align with us, because of how I explain or how we present our communications, we're literally looking them in the face when we're talking about these. What happens is they basically talk themselves out of it. They're like, oh wow, yeah, I'm not going to mesh with this company. That's one, right? The other thing is just pure honesty, right? We explain to them the difficulty of the job. I follow a principle called slap, slap, hug, hug. Slap, slap portion means tell them about all the good, all the bad. Not the all the, it's all about the good, the bad, and the ugly, but the main thing is tell them about the bad and the ugly. That's the slap version. It's, tell them about the fact that, oftentimes there are trucks that are going to break down, and we're going to send out rescue, but it's going to basically waste many hours during the day. And the fact that we're still responsible to ensuring that we deliver those packages. Tell them about the fact that, in the morning, sometimes we need to collapse routes, uncollapse routes. There are packages as heavy as 150 pounds, and there's a lot of chaos sometimes on the belt in the morning. And it's important for them to understand that. And I also talk extensively about the fact that there's no bitching, no moaning, no whining, no complaining. If you bitch and moan and whine and complain, the good news is you're still going to have a job. The bad news is it's not going to be with my company, because literally we will walk you to a different contractor, to a different FedEx Ground owner, because everybody's always hiring, but we're not, right? We actually really do follow the culture principle of making sure that we have a good culture, good morale, and that's really what's going to set you apart from a profitability perspective long term. So I'm very clear about the things that are difficult with the job. Then the other thing that I talk about is my commitment to them. What can we as a company commit to them? So the way I explain this is I call it the coffee analogy. It's basically, I tell them that my commitment, our company's commitment is I will make sure that you can afford a cup of coffee every day you show up to work. Because the truth is, if you can afford a cup of coffee, you can afford gas. If you can afford gas, very likely you can afford your car payment, which means you can get to work, right? And there are so many drivers out there nowadays that aren't even able to afford gas, which is a problem because they end up quitting or they end up not showing up to work, which basically ends up having that vicious cycle for you. So as a company owner, as management, it's your responsibility to ensure they can afford a cup of coffee. Because if they can't afford a cup of coffee, the truth is they're not going to be able to afford their gas or car payment, which means they're going to end up quitting on you soon. They're going to end up having multiple jobs and a whole bunch of other varieties, right? Now, I finished that with the idea of if you can afford a car payment, that means you can afford your rent. If you can afford your rent, it means you're able to take care of your loved ones. You're able to take care of your wife, your children, your girlfriend, your husband, your parents, right? And that's the extent of our commitment to ensure you live a comfortable, safe lifestyle. We are not able to commit to you or provide to you a lifestyle where you're going to live in luxury. You're not going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in this career, right? Now, what is it that you're committing to us? What you're committing to us is no bitching, no moaning, no whining, no complaining. You're committing to the idea that when we give you 100 packages, you will come back with no more than one package. You're committing to the idea that you will never be late or early to a pickup. Now, there are always incidents or issues that come up on the road, and there needs to be clear communication between management and you, the driver. It's amazing how often drivers just don't communicate, and we have zero tolerance for non-accountability. You have to be accountable. You have to be responsible. You have to be disciplined. You have to show up to work on time. You have to make sure you get these boxes and packages delivered. You have to be a team player. You have to be willing to show up on weekends. If you can't commit to the idea of showing up to work, then don't take this as a career. I'm sure there is another career for you, right? And I'm presenting this, and I've taught my management team, we literally present and talk this way, right? Because it's important for them to understand. And the reason we do this is because the right candidates are going to be like, you know what? That's who I am. I'm responsible, I'm accountable, I'm only looking to live a comfortable life maybe for the next 2 years, and then after that I might go to college, or I'm planning on moving out of the country in 2 years anyway, so this is going to be a great mid-career for me. Whatever it is, your communication, your conversation, the expectations you're setting for them is going to resonate with some. They're like, hey, this is great. And those are the candidates that you want. And then it's also going to resonate with some other ones on the opposite way, where they're like, wait a minute, this is not what I want. This is totally not what I expected. I expected better vehicles. I expected smaller packages. I expected to choose my own schedule. I only want to work 1 day a week or 2 days a week. I don't want to be out on the road until 8 p.m., right? And the truth is they need to know that. They need to know and understand that there will be days they're going to be on the road until 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. We will do everything we can to ensure that happens as rarely as humanly possible, but it's possible that'll happen. Now, let's talk about how I finish these type of presentations. Again, this is literally people that have shown up for an interview at the station. We open the door, we bring them in. They're standing literally in front of us, and we're basically talking. So how I finish it is, I'd like to thank you all for spending the past 15, 20 minutes with me. I appreciate all of you guys coming in today and spending your time with me. What I'd like all of you guys to do is when you go home to sit down with your loved one, with your colleagues, with your friends, with your girlfriend, or maybe just go inside a Starbucks and sit down and order yourself a nice cappuccino and think about everything that I've been talking to you guys about today and decide if this is the right career for you. If it is, fantastic. We'd love to have you on board. Shortly, we're going to discuss the next steps you will have to take in order to become a driver with our company. If you decide that this is not the right career for you, that's okay. I appreciate your time still. I'm sure there's the right career for you out there somewhere, and I wish you guys the best of luck. Now, and then basically we go to the folder aspect. So we basically have hundreds of these folders in all of my stations at all times. And inside the folders, there's usually 3 documents we have. We have the chain of custody form, the paper version, which is very important in my humble opinion. We have the ISP drug test form, so that way the station directly gets billed for the physical test and the drug test as opposed to me getting billed. And the first one is the next steps to become a driver. And that's what we provide through Route Elite, of course. So how we literally take out those documents and we basically explain what each one is and what they should do. So we take out the next step document and say, okay, first you're gonna go to a drug test location, a health center location, and do your drug test, do your physical test. And then after that, you're gonna go to this website, fill out this form, and then after that, you'll receive a background application from First Advantage. We'll help you out, we'll help you fill it out, and then after that, we'll basically schedule you for training. And that's it. Any questions, right? And then sometimes people ask questions, can I choose my days? I have to give 2-week notice. Are the boxes really that heavy, right? You want to be crystal clear about the answers that you give, right? So if they say, are the boxes really that heavy? Yes, they are, right? On average, a significant portion of the boxes they'll be responsible for is 40, 50, 60 pounds. Now, the IC, there's just a few on any given day, right? Like things that are over 100 pounds, but they're there. And I don't have somebody that's going to come in and take those boxes for you, right? So yeah, you are responsible for it. So if you can't take boxes that are over 100 pounds, unfortunately, this is just not the right career for you. I understand it's heavy. I understand you just can't do it. Fully understanding, right? But it's just not the right career. So again, it's very important to be very crystal clear about what the job is, not sugarcoating it, because guess what? On their first week of work or the second week of work or the first month of work, they cannot claim complacency. That's the biggest problem in this business with a lot of drivers. They're like, well, I didn't know this is hard. I didn't know the boxes are this heavy. I didn't know the trucks break down. I didn't know trucks are diesel and they smell, right? So they have these complacencies that they can claim because nobody told them up front what they are. So what's your defense? You don't have a defense. You can't argue with them if you weren't upfront with them. But in our operations, nobody can ever claim complacency because we were very upfront with them. I clearly remember still to this day where we had a driver that actually showed up to work at about 8:25 a.m. And our company's policy is you show up to work at 8 a.m. No exception. And this was a new driver, and he showed up to work at, again, I think it was like 8:25 a.m. It was his first week or second week. I can't remember. But I literally pulled over my general manager and I said, walk with me. So we walked over the belt professionally, respectfully. I basically said, hey, how you doing? He's like, I'm good. I said, did I interview you for this job? And at that point, I was doing 100% of the interviews. He said, yes. I said, during our interview, during our conversation, did I talk about the fact that you have to be here at 8 a.m.? He said, yes, you did. I said, okay, let's make sure we have a clear relationship here and clear understanding. Don't ever let this happen again, because the next time it happens, we will essentially allow you to transition to another contractor or allow you to basically quit, or you'll be fired, right? We just are not going to allow one bad apple to devalue the morale of the company, because the truth is, if your other drivers see that one person is getting away from it, away with it, guess what? Slowly but surely, everything else in your company and your company culture will decay. So it's very, very powerful stuff, but you have to follow through. That's the other thing. You don't want to say things inside the presentation or the interview stage that you're not going to be able to follow through with. So if your drivers are not going to be able to afford a cup of coffee, don't talk about it. I mean, figure out something else, right? I think if they can't afford a cup of coffee, you have other challenges you'll want to figure out, but it's important for what you present them, you're able to follow through with your promises. So that way, you can actually have confidence in ensuring that they're following through with their stuff, right? So if you follow through, they have to follow through just as well. Okay? Well, anyways, cheers.